Hey everybody, welcome to We Hit Rewind. This episode discussing the Romancing the Stone, Jewels of Nile double feature. I'm Michael and Mindy's on the other side.
How do you do?
This continues our conversation of heist movies. You might be wondering, hey, you've never had an episode about heist movies before. Guess what? This will be in opposite order. As a bonus, this will have the National Treasure episodes at the end. It kind of had an editing issue, but I don't want to throw away the episode. So that'll be an add-on. It would be kind of nice sometimes if we were able to do more than 2 movies at a time, but it's just the time permitting is so hard. Yeah, I mean, you're talking back in the day when I could do the show more often. It was easier to, and well, you and I always kind of capped it at 3 movies. So the post Indiana Jones, the whole box office excitement, influence of Raiders of the Lost Ark clearly left its mark internationally and here in America. But for all the copies, and yes, there were a lot of copies, only one of those kind of influenced by Raiders of the Lost Ark was successful. And that was Romancing the Stone. And they tried over and over again. High Road to China may be the closest thing. And I think there was some hankering for high adventure. You know, we talked about this with the National Treasure stuff. It's not cops. It's not superheroes. It's kind of a retro feel, like jungle movies, the desert kind of. It's something that was missing, not war movies, just something that had like kind of a PG feel.
Yeah, it's adventure, but it's not like overly violent.
Yeah.
It's like somewhere in the middle.
Though I will say, upon reflection of the first 2 Indiana Jones movies, holy shit, how the fuck were those PG?
I don't like the.
Yeah. Well, and I think she's really annoying, so. Yeah, so Romancing the Stone really is the only one to hit it on the nose. So I want to say Romancing the Stone is a fine watch, but I don't understand why it was a phenomenon. I definitely don't understand why the second one was a phenomenon, and that's even something that we saw in theaters when we were kids. Do you remember that? Yeah. What did you?
Kinda, yeah.
I will say the first one is infinitely better than the second one. I really think the only thing that makes the second one work is the chemistry in the cast. The story, not so much.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's a story that you get a lot with sequels, and that one of the things that makes it's like the newness, the freshness of the first one. You just when you get to a second one, you have now expectations of things, and it's really hard to capture the same feeling without being a direct copycat, you know?
Yeah. So the first one, the heist, is a stolen, what is that, giant ruby? I just keep calling it the jewel, but that's a gigantic fucking ruby, right? Yeah. And so everybody's trying to find this monstrosity. And then the second one, it's a person that's the jewel in quotation marks. So I thought that was a unique twist on it. But Zemeckis is a much better director than Lewis Coates. Am I saying it right now? I think it's Lewis Coates. It's the guy who did like Navy SEALs and I believe Firestarter. Oh, no, Lewis Teague, thank you. So he had done some monster movies before this. And the only reason why he got hired was he was basically the only guy available. So, whereas Romancing the Stone was something that was in the works for years. You know, Zemeckis and Gale really just tried for 5 or 6 years to get this going. So they really had it down what they wanted to do, kind of the way they did with Back to the Future. That was a script they had worked out for years. They knew exactly what they wanted, how they wanted to do it. Plus, Zemeckis, despite his faults and his obsession with new technology, he is a very innovative, fun director.
Yeah, yeah.
And this was a project that Michael Douglas really wanted to get made. And he tried with a lot of different actors over the years. Some people aged out or weren't interested anymore in the project. He almost went with Stallone, which I think would have been a huge fucking mistake. And Christopher Reeve is an interesting choice, but I have a hard time seeing him as kind of a gray area rascal.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But oh yeah, I'm seeing other people, Clint Eastwood, Kurt Russell. I think
Okay, Kirk. Right, yeah, absolutely. I can't. I don't even know what he was doing at that time, but yeah, I imagine we were talking about that. I forgot about the list, and I was like, Kurt Russell would have been a great choice for that because he's kind of like him and Michael Douglas are always kind of the kings of the gray area, where Michael Douglas, his is that he plays the gray area if he can be a bad guy in one movie and a good guy in another movie. You kind of believe it because they're always kind of like steely, cold people. Whereas Kurt Russell plays the gray area where you're never sure if he's going to make the right choice. I still think Overboard is kind of a fucked up movie if you think about it in retrospect.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. But somehow there's still like he's still like a lovable scoundrel.
Yeah, he was the master of the lovables. Oh, did he? Okay. Yeah, I just can't think of anything else he was doing. Yeah. No, they're all too old and yeah. Yeah, it's just in Michael Douglas, this would basically cement his career as a star. If you look at his filmography before this, it's real scattershot. He mostly was interested in being a producer. He had done Streets of San Francisco for 5 seasons, or maybe four, and then did the China Syndrome. That kind of carried him. He helped produce that and One Flew with Cuckoo's Nest. But it's not till this movie, all of a sudden, everybody's like, holy shit, this guy's an A-lister. And I mean, you look 2 years later, he's got Fatal Attraction and Wall Street, and all both Oscar nominated, huge box office hits, and he became one of the longest lasting leads, I think. I feel like he was still headlining big studio films for another 20 years. Whereas it feels like they took the first chance to move on from Kathleen Turner, who I think is phenomenal in this.
Oh gosh, what a woman.
Yeah. I mean, VR Warshawski, I feel like should have been a franchise for her, but whatever, it didn't happen. And that's when it feels like everybody got cold to her.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that just the realities is that Hollywood is very fickle, especially with women.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, you're my old net, fuck you.
Yeah. And this is Danny DeVito's kind of, now he's not a TV guy anymore. He had done a couple movies, but this is kind of like, kind of his trademark is the very funny, incredibly like devious, but you have so much fun watching him be devious. I just love him.
Yeah, I think he really is one of those kind of characters that you don't ever know if you can really trust.
Yeah. Because even when he's,
also a level.
yeah, well, think about like Throw Mama from the Train, where he's, Owen, where he's kind of a lovable loser. At the same time, he's trying to convince Billy Crystal to kill his mother. Yeah, he has that hook, and still to this day on Sunny in Philadelphia, he has that. Yeah. So we basically covered. So we basically covered everything with Robert Zemeckis' career and where he was at this point because we just did a Back to the Future trilogy a couple months ago. So I'm going to skip over that. But he clearly had a better vision for how to film things, how to edit things, make them exciting and fun, and he knew how to work the chemistry. Whereas, like I said, damn it, Louis Teague, just a guy who was a gun for hire. I think it was originally supposed to be John Guillermin, who had done King Kong in the 70s and a bunch of other like kind of epic movies. And for whatever reason, just bailed. And they had this guy come on. And what I'm looking is Michael Douglas had to take over. They had another guy take over that, he could not get anything together. The first movie is so efficient and action packed. And it only cost $10 million. The sequel cost $25 million. And I just don't see it on the screen except for that one sequence with the plane.
Yeah, no, because half the movie there's trudging through the desert.
Yeah. I do love my favorite scene in the first movie is when they're being kind of followed by these kind of nefarious guys through this village. And they open the door and it's the guy from Three Amigos, Alfonso Cuarón. And he's like, or is it Alfonso Arul? He goes, John Wilder?
Oh, yeah, that's so funny.
And I love listening to him talk about his vehicle and his town. That's my favorite pig. And that I think really is what someone must have seen him and said he would be great as the villain in Three Amigos. Yeah, because you don't hate him. I mean, no, I know he's a bad guy. He does some really ridiculous stuff, but he's so funny in Three Amigos.
Yeah, Three Amigos is one of those. It is interesting how you're like,
The
I just misunderstood.
yeah. Do you know what a plethora is? No. El Guapo, I do not have the intellect that you do. Please tell me what a plethora is. Oh God.
You know what? I was looking at the stuff about Robert Zemeckis since, I don't know, I was just trying to refresh. I didn't realize that he was married to Mary Ellen Trainor.
Yeah,
At one
basically, yeah, America's mom, basically, on every movie of the 80s and early 90s. Because we talked about her, I think, some time ago, because, Monster Squad, the Lethal Weapon movies, it just seemed like she popped up
Oh
constantly.
yeah.
She doesn't get a whole lot to do here,
No,
but
I mean she's the driving force of the whole first movie, but she's just a tool.
yeah. And I think this is the first time I'd ever seen Holland Taylor, who, I mean, she always has that
Oh,
cold, steely, snarky attitude. I thought she was a lot of fun too.
yeah, I didn't remember that she was in this, and I was like, oh my God, I've never seen her so young before. But she's still the same hard, brassy woman.
A brassy
But
dame.
yet, she is tough as nails, and yet she cries all the time. So funny.
Yeah, I do. I love the choice at the end when he has that alligator. It has the jewel, but he has to be realistic. He's been fighting with it for what, 5 minutes at the point that she's about to be stabbed by the bad guy, and he's like,
Yeah,
ah, I got I'm choosing love over the jewel. But I'm going to tell you right now, he had no chance. If you can't get that alligator at that point, forget it.
dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
I
Can't
almost
do. Give us an arm.
Yeah, I almost feel like the ending shouldn't have gone that way when he shows up in the boat and he's got the alligator shoes and he's
Yeah, it
having.
was weird.
I almost feel like that was a tacked on thing, studio notes. It didn't feel natural.
No, there's no way he should have been ever get the best of that alligator.
Yeah, and I also noticed that the Lost City a couple years ago with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum
Oh yeah.
doesn't that also have the hook that she's a writer who goes on an adventure?
No, I told everybody you should go see this movie. It's like a modern twist on romantic film.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I kept thinking about that, and I think the problem. Another problem with the sequel is I feel like they immediately tore them apart for almost no real logical reason. And, basically back to square one. And I was like, well, what was the point of the end of the first movie if you're just going to destroy everything that we just went through? And yeah,
Well, I mean, that's a lot of times what they do in storylines is they have to find a reason to continue. So we must separate the main characters and then force a separation to then bring them back together. I hate it when they do that. When you're like, but they spent the whole movie apart, having chemistry maybe with other people.
yeah.
No.
And really shoehorning Danny DeVito in there, I don't know if that worked either. He's funny, but it doesn't also, again, just doesn't feel right. Kathleen Turner did not want to make the sequel. She refused. Yeah, but contractual obligation, which is weird because back in the 80s, a lot of times studios didn't think about franchises. So they wouldn't tie it
Yeah.
up in a deal. Now it feels like it's everything. Like if you sign on to this, you got to sign on for 10 years, with a TV show or a movie.
I saw that she didn't like the script, that she didn't want to do it, and then the studio and Michael Douglas together sued her for $25 million.
Yeah, and then they promised that they would rewrite the script, which never happened. So it shocks me that 4 years later they do War of the Roses. And yeah, and I'm like, wait, huh? And I'm going to say it's probably Danny. Danny convinced him to make amends because everybody loves Danny, and he was a director, and so I didn't know if Michael was a producer on that, so maybe cleaning his hands of that made them come back together. Which that is a really great movie too. I love that. It's really dark and demented.
I don't remember a lot of it. Just that Sean Astin is her son.
Yeah, we saw it at the drive-in with something, but like way after the fact. I can never remember what it was, but I remember at the time we didn't appreciate it because the trailer sold very, very funny. But this was a much more emotional connection, and it's a lot darker than we expected, which is, his signature, which, now as an adult, of course, it's going to be dark. But yeah, that one's a really great one. They talked about possibly doing a fourth movie together, and I remember like they weren't talking about a Romancing the Stone sequel. They were just trying to find another project. And I was reading into this, and I probably you did too, is they tried 2 or 3 times to get another one going. sometimes that reeks of desperation. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not mad about the new Beverly Hills Cop, but something about it didn't feel right. Same thing with the last Bill and Ted. Sometimes it just doesn't feel right. It feels so forced.
I liked the Beverly Hills Cop 5, but Bill and Ted was whatever. It came out like, when we were still reeling from COVID and it felt like a little balm suffering.
Yeah,
But no,
yeah.
it felt forced.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of one that doesn't feel desperate. I'm just trying to think of a sequel that doesn't feel desperate. I feel like I saw one recently that didn't feel. Oh, Bad Boys 3 and 4 have been absolutely fantastic.
That recently.
Yeah.
I will say that they must really have repaired whatever bad blood might have been between them, because then she was on several episodes of his Netflix show, The Kaminsky Method, that he did with
Alan Arkin.
Alan Arkin, which I actually haven't seen but heard a lot of positive stuff about.
I was just thinking about Alan Arkin, and it was just shocked to me. I could not think if he had ever done a heist movie, and I forgot. He did the remake. Well, he did a remake of Going in Style, which I need to see. I've never seen it, but with Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman, directed by Zach Braff, of all people. I was surprised by that. Oh, speaking of, did you know there's going to be a remake of War of the Roses coming real soon with Benedict Cumberbatch? I can't remember who the other people are.
No, I didn't know that. Hey, remember the Argo? We discussed that was a possible heist
Yeah,
movie.
it is. Well, that's one of the few where it's a heist and a con artist movie.
He was also in the Get Shorty TV show. Well, just one episode.
Oh,
Never mind.
yeah, but back to these two movies real quick. I'm trying to make the episodes a little shorter and still a little more focused. But I will say the first one is a lot of fun. I'm still shocked it made that much money, but maybe there just wasn't any competition. Remember when that would happen with movies? They would open maybe at 5 or 6 million, but word of mouth was like just kept it going. And apparently that's happening right now with Hard Eyes. Hard Eyes got got amazing reviews. People are talking great about it, the audiences, but it didn't open very well. But then this Friday it opened 25% higher, which has not happened, I think, since Scream.
My big friend recording.
Yeah, well, I meant in the horror genre, but yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Common thing with horror that it just sort of, I mean, maybe not that big, but that it quietly.
Yeah, it depends on. Yeah, if it's.
Terrifier have like 3 fucking movies. I
don't know. And yeah, if the critics are there, the audience is there. Usually it can stay for a while, but sometimes these movies come out and it's just like, well, we need a horror movie this weekend. Oh, it's gonna make $10 million, and next week it collapses to like 4 million and then 1 million and gone, like Darkness Falls or something. But it is funny how some of these movies back in the day could open so low, but there's nothing else, it just sticks around forever. I looked at Beverly Hills Cop 1, and it was still #1 at the box office by spring break of '85. So that's like 3.5 months at #1. And yeah, if there's nothing better, then why would you not tell your friends go see Romancing the Stone,
Yeah, and just, think about in the 80s how there was a lot less movies coming out at time. And
That's
there was
true.
a lot less options.
No, yeah, no streaming. There's movies on TV are edited to death and they're in a different ratio. And VHS kids used to take home video, I should say. Home video used to take 6 months, a year, sometimes more. Whereas now it's like, oh, it's not doing that well at the box office. It's VOD, You're like, what? How the fuck did that happen already? Ah, Craven the Hunter, I'm talking about you.
It's just such a shame. The way we've talked about this so many times, the way the industry has just.
Yeah. Well, pretty much everything is shit right now. So if you want a time travel, back into when, oh, and I'll say this, it's shot on film and the first one looks great. God, I looked at it and go, this looks like a fucking movie, Like a lot of the newer movies, unless they're very carefully made, they just don't look right. And it takes a master filmmaker to get that lighting proper because film does not react to light in the same way that video does. And they seem like they spent a lot more time with film getting it right. Whereas video seems to be like, oh, let's just shoot it and go. We'll fix it later in post and green screen and all this shit.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't, special effects and stuff like that was a tad different in 1984, 1985.
yeah.
The only thing in the second one that that doesn't hold up is like the green screen thing what they did with the guy who plays the jewel. I
No,
forgot what his name actually was.
yeah,
And when he at towards the end when he's like in the fire and they're all like shouting for him. Ooh, and it was like so cheesy looking,
yeah.
so bad. Like
But
green screen or whatever.
yeah, yeah, and so but
Otherwise,
yeah.
great.
Whereas the Lost City, a lot of it looks like it's shot in Hawaii, and it's a lot of green screen. Whereas it looks like they shot *Romancing the Stone* like down in wherever it was set, Columbia, I think it was. So it was probably a dangerous filmmaking. All right, so that is it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. And like I said, there will be a bonus at the end of this episode. I apologize for the audio, but I had a weird computer issue, which I didn't realize until 3 episodes of, yeah, seriously, I recorded 3 episodes back to back.
Can I say something
Yeah,
real quick?
sure.
We didn't really. I just want to say that like Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, their chemistry was just insane.
Yeah.
Even on the second one, despite having issues, I was like, oh, that looks like that's a real kiss.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it looks real. Good job acting, people.
Well, I think,
Because so many movies you're just like, nope,
yeah. Well,
gotta believe that couple.
I also think the frustrations before making the movie might have brought a lot of tension into those scenes. Yeah, so because they seem like they're angry at each other quite a bit. And I'm like, oh, is this real?
There's come a lot of problem romances that you're just like, they have no chemistry or they're not even remotely.
Yeah. I love that the sequel does end. The best part of the sequel, I would say, is probably the going gets tough. The tough get go 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 go. And that's such a great song. I think Billy Ocean is so underrated. It's funny is I remember the first time we rented this, I didn't understand why the image of them when it goes to credits, everything was stretched out to fit it on the screen. At the time, I had no concept of what that was, and that blew my mind. I was like, "Why does this look so damn weird?" It's because they shot it super wide, and when the credits came up, they had to switch it real fast. All right, everybody, that is it. Have a good one.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind. This episode is kind of a different direction. We haven't thought of a title for the spinoff till we got the beat, so this is just we never did. What are we gonna do with this, man? We got the thief? No. So the part of the problem is I would have to have someone do the art if we change the name. So do you want to just yeah. Yes. So it's kind of a seasonal thing now. Like 1 year we're gonna do heist movies. Maybe 2 years we're gonna be doing movies based on books. But we might just separate that into like 1 year is like YA novel kind of stuff, and then like another year will be more like the Grishams and yeah, Crichton and stuff like that. More adult oriented. Yeah. Who's oh yeah 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 yeah. That would go good with Westworld, where it's another Crichton thing, where they're in a kind of an alternate world, but not really. But so this episode, basically, this year is going to be heist movies. Con artist, thief, stealing stuff. Sometimes it's really intricate, like how the nuts and bolts of how a con works or a heist works, and some of it's just that's a big thing. Like we deal with the repercussions of lifestyle. There's some movies where they literally just steal ideas or implant ideas. I mean, what do you call Inception? What's Inception? Yeah, Mind Heist. How is it not going to be called Mind Heist? Yeah, or that Ben Affleck Paycheck. Isn't that where they steal some of his memories? Oh, yes, absolutely. The town did that. And then there's Reindeer Games. He did a lot of thief movies, because now I think about it, because isn't this by Night of Thief mobster guys? Argo. Argo's a con. Yeah. So we might be going more than 1 year now that I think about it. Of course, there's the yeah. Oh, I don't even know if I've even seen that movie. Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to start off with something kind of goofy and fun, and I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan. I mean, yes, there's a decade there where it was really bad. He just clearly trying to pay off his tax debt, but National Treasure is kind of the last of the big audience pleasing kind of stuff that he was making. So I thought that would be appropriate. It's very well in the franchise, which I'm still shocked is only the two movies and TV show that barely connected.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it because I was just like, if you don't.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that essentially a remake and not a sequel series?
What?
Yeah, I do believe if I look it up, Justin, not Thoreau, what's it? Bartha, he does show up, I believe, in 2 episodes, and Harvey Keitel shows up in 1 episode just to have a connection to the movies. But it is insane to me how the second movie made so much money, and they were done. They're just like, well, Nicolas Cage is over with. I'm like, you don't want to throw him a bone after he made all that money for you guys? It's not just these two movies. It's Con Air. It's gone in 60 seconds. Yeah. I mean, he's had some career resurgence, and Jerry Bruckheimer proved that he can bring back an old franchise with the Bad Boys, and people will show up, and it's good. It's the best I think it's ever been. I hate part 2, so 3 and 4 were shocked to me that they're that damn good. But National Treasure, yeah, this is kind of him. I want to say the first one kind of saved his career. It wasn't going too well. He has that thing where he'll have a hit, and then he kind of does a lot of movies that just interest him. They're not meant to be big hits. They're meant to just, whatever weird idea. Because, like, if you look, he does Raising Arizona, and then you think after that he would be doing a whole bunch of studio films, but not really. I mean, he has Empire's Kiss right after that, and it's really weird. And Honeymoon Vegas and go back to that's probably the closest he did from Honeymoon Vegas to The Rock is probably his most I'm gonna do studio friendly stuff. But he would do this though, he started to teeter a little bit, then he does Gone in 60 Seconds, and he starts to teeter a little bit, then he does National Treasure. But after the first National Treasure, it is pretty much a wasteland until the second one, and then after that, he's just donezo. And I think the problem is he loves acting so much that he doesn't really curate his he's not having an agent that tells him, nah, maybe you shouldn't. Like Yes Man, who just lets you do 1,000 things that you probably shouldn't be doing, like buying castles you've never seen.
Yeah, I suppose. Although I don't say, there are definitely.
Yeah, Kick-Ass, come on. Yeah, he's still. Yeah, so Pig was kind of like the first. Oh man, I guess was like kind of a drop in the water causing a ripple, but it was Pig that really got everybody talking, and it is probably his best performance. But still, you look, and he's still making these kind of mediocre, where it's an interesting idea, or he gets to do something interesting. The rest of it just doesn't come together. And I mean, for every great Redfield, I loved Redfield. I don't care if it bombed.
Oh my God, it was so good. I love it.
Yeah, but they have like The Old Way, which is just a low rent, by the numbers Western. And I'm sure he just did it because it's a Western. He never got to do one before. But he's one of the most.
I'm sorry. Don't you think Austin?
Yeah, that could be. Sometimes these smaller companies just don't have the money for post-production, or they can't find a distribution deal. I can see that happening. But then, Redfield's coming out, suddenly he's a hot thing again, even though like I said, it bombed. But who knew Longlegs, of all things, was going to be like, oh, that's his biggest hit since, I think, the last National Treasure.
So weird.
But yeah, he's a fascinating actor, and I do enjoy the small stuff that he did when it fails. But, he needed the movies that Bruckheimer and Touchstone or Disney would do for him to keep him going. You do one for them, do 5 for me kind of thing. I think National Treasure is really the epitome of wholly complicated fucking nonsense, but again, it works. We're gonna steal the Constitution. What? So in this, he's we're not treasure. What is he? We're not treasure stealers. We're treasure protectors. That's not even his voice. I don't know. I'm going Gary Busey here. Well, I got my teeth bigger. Wouldn't it National Treasure with Gary Busey would make some low-rent directed video? But I do love the movie is directed by John Turteltaub, and it's so funny to me that the first thing I had ever seen him do was Three Ninjas, and that was for Touchstone. Yeah, that was for Touchstone, and all of a sudden he became like the kind of guy to for the company, cool runnings, and kind of went from there. And I think that he really gels very well with a style of filmmaking. If you look, the first Bad Boys, The Rock, Con Air, Gone 60 Seconds and National Treasure, they all have the same kind of sound, look, feel. Bruckheimer has a signature. He's one of the only producers I know that has a signature feel to his movies. And no, if you like, Mark Ryan Encino always does the the music, and it's always dun 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 dun, that kind of thing. Lots of oranges, very bright colors. But there's a warmth to all of his movies. And also, ever since Michael Bay did Bad Boys, that kind of became the signature action movies for a very long time. The long pan swirling camera kind of thing in slow-mo. There's if there's a car chase, the camera is literally moving and it's zooming in and out on the car as it's moving, which is weird to me since the car is literally moving. You don't need to constantly keep the camera bumping and jumping. But
anyway.
but that's kind of like, this is the last of that look, that feel. That was like a decade-long thing. And what I love about Bruckheimer movies is he also surrounds his star with really great B and C level character actors. And in this, it's just, he goes to like old rivals, and it's kind of like John Voight, shitty of a human is. But he shows up in quite a few Bruckheimer movies, and I gotta tell you, he's good. Yeah, one of those where I try to separate the actor from the person, which is hard. But Fuller Stoltz in the first 15, 20 years of his career was pretty entertaining and general charisma, and then slowly went nuts. Yeah, that's the thing, is that in order to do this, to have someone you convince is crazy enough to do it, and Nicolas Cage is the right guy. If they had, like they did a lot of some of these big budget Disney movies, they cast them really dull and surround them with interesting supporting cast. But you're not going to believe any of this if your main character who's making all these insane decisions isn't a little nuts. Sorry, I was drinking some water there. And I love the fact that this is the era where no matter what Sean Bean did, he was a villain, and he ate shit at me for a long time. Yeah, I mean, he did after Lord of the Rings thing, and don't say a word, so everybody's kind of like looking at him as like, hey, Gary Oldman, the war out is the weirdo villain, let's pick him. No, but I think people were tired of him being the villain. He was a villain in so many movies in such a short. Yeah. It's really funny to me how much they spent on this. I mean, I guess it's kind of a country traveling thing, but that if it wasn't Bruckheimer and Nicolas Cage at this point, there's no way this would be $100 million movie. No way. I think people on the two, it's been a very long time, I think. I'm trying to think. Indian's last one, it was 1989. So you're talking since I've always had nostalgia for the genres that have faded away. I mean, you're talking a year and a half before this, Bruckheimer brought back Pirates. And no one thought that was going to be a big hit. And I can't believe they spent $120 million just like risking that much on something that I don't think they've been a pirate movie successful since probably the 50s. But I do. Yeah, that's right. Because that was the last big pirate movie. But every pirate movie tried, except for Jim Muppet's Treasure Island, were bombs. But the trade movie. Yeah, the Sword Sail movie came back around this time, and that was a dead genre. And heist movies always were kind of popular. It's like come go. But never on this scale. I really think that Ocean's 11, 3 years earlier, really got people excited about heist movies. And so they're putting more, money into them. But also lots are starting to get now cartoonishly difficult to the point where I almost laugh at how historical. Like, why would you even go to, well, fuck it, fine, just keep going. But I think what makes these, yeah, it's like you're going to be cartoonish, go all the way in. I almost feel like, is there a spoof of heist movies? Because I feel like that's something that needs to happen. Yeah. Well, you're going to steal someone's heart. Why do you steal their heart? You're like, I love them so much, I want to steal their heart. Can't take the heart out of the body. But what about the feeling around the heart? Metaphorically, let's heist that.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But that makes me think of another movie that would this be considered a heist movie? Stardust. Because his whole objective is to steal a star.
Really?
To win a good heart.
Okay. I was going to call it How to Lose a Heart in 10 Days, but okay. Do you remember? There's never really been a heist TV show, I don't think, but there's one that you and I loved. It was called Knights of Prosperity. Do you remember that? Let's rob. Yeah, let's rob. Jeff Goldblum was the original title. They realized every season they're gonna have to rob something. I don't know. Yeah, this is the craze of the heist and making it more complicated than it's ever been before, which I think makes heist movies so fascinating when you're trying not to repeat something that anybody else has done. And National Treasure fucking does it. It grabs the energy of the Indiana Jones and the Goonies movie, but also a semi complicated heist of Ocean's 11. Everybody in it is just their game for whatever nonsense is going on.
I feel great. My dog is driving me insane.
All right, so let's talk about the second one real quick. The Book of Secrets is what it's called. Oh no, Book of. Is it Book of Secrets? I got confused for a second. Hey, let's play the game. Is this a Harry Potter title or a National Treasure title? Yeah. That one even goes deeper into nonsense, trying to clear his family name from something that really didn't feel like is like, you're going to risk your life to do this? This seemed kind of insane. They kidnapped the president.
It's like fly.
He puts friends, he puts everybody at risk to clear something that just didn't matter. Like, I can see maybe being like, no, that fucking sucks. Me. Like, you know what? Hold on a second. Have you ever seen TV Check You Should Leave with Tim Robinson?
No, but I am familiar with.
Okay. I almost feel like his stubbornness with clearing the name on this almost feels like a skit that, because Tim Robinson always plays characters in that's so goddamn stubborn that he does the stupidest shit you've ever heard of, and I can't stop laughing about how dumb it is. Yeah, watch a little bit of that and see what I'm talking about. So this is like 2 years later, and it kept bugging me. Why does Nicolas Cage? He looks so handsome and so charming in that first movie, and you can see. No, seriously, he looked good. And but I kept bugging me in the second one. I was like, why does he look like this is 15 years later? He looks so old and thin. And then I stop and go, oh my God, it's the sideburns. All it was is the fact that his sideburns are missing from the second movie. And then you can kind of see where like they go back a little too far with the shaving because fitting his wig on. And I'm like, wow, you just took years off your life. I also think the fact that his hair is not blonde in the second one, where it's pretty like, I think Nicolas Cage's hair actually is a little blonde in real life, but he's had so many wigs you just can't tell. But if you look at his early movies, like Valley Girl, I think his hair is blonde. But that bugged me for some stupid reason. I was like, he looks like he's sick. It's sideburns.
Well,
So this cost $30 million more, but it made like 120 more. So I'm still just absolute loss as to why Disney did not make a third one. Oh, he's not as popular as he wants. Well, these aren't anomaly. It's like Keanu Reeves with his John Wick movies. Everything around John Wick doesn't do very well. But those John Wick movies keep making tons of money, keep making them. That's why you can make a third or fourth National Treasure, you stupid morons.
Talk about the most ridiculous like plot lines and way to get from point A to point B. It is the most ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, and then fall into this weird little niche of movies that are designed around action sequences. I think started, of course, with James Bond, Indiana Jones. Lost Ark was one that was really like set up around amazing action sequences and getting the plot to work around that stuff. That kind of became the language of these kind of movies. Mission Impossible and National Treasure, John Wick, where they want to do stuff you've never seen before. So the plot sometimes seems like a MacGuffin just to get to the action sequences. A really great film can make it all work. Some of these just kind of, you set your on coast until they get to the next action sequence. Like we were talking about Bad Boys earlier, I thought the action sequences in 4 were truly astounding and original. I'd never seen anything like it before, and yet it never feels like the plot is purposely pushed in the direction like it's forced. And National Treasure, yeah. So National Treasure has like these insanely elaborate little sequences, especially at the end of the first one, that circular tunnel that goes down. And I was like, of course it's all gonna fall apart because they just have a sequence where they're trying to, jump from thing to thing, catch on, grab on, whatever. And that's the weakness, I think, of the series, is that it does feel so forced just to get to the set piece. Yeah. I feel like Ed Harris cashing a paycheck here because this is embarrassing, I think, for him. He's too good of an actor for something this cartoonish. Though, if I had to trade off, if I got to take that in order to get Helen Mirren, I'm good. I love Helen Mirren in this. And who's really underrated, no one ever talks about, is Bruce Greenwood. This was shot partly in Canada. Yeah, here's the thing, that he is an actor I think rarely ever comes to America to film. But if you don't know how filmmaking tax incentives work, if you shoot in Canada and you have at least one major role done by a Canadian actor, you actually get more of a tax incentive. The more people in that country, like Australia and Canada, whatever, you cast, the more tax incentives you get. And Bruce Greenwood's like the king of A-list, top of the line, usually genre films. He'll come in, do 20 minutes, fucking nails it on the head, and sometimes he'll be the only Canadian actor in a main role, and I think it's just fantastic. And he's just one of those guys. It's always been a B-C list kind of guy, but always reliable, never phones it in. Like a Robert Forster of the next generation. I was just thinking about that because I just watched Anyone But You, and that was shot in, yeah, they shot that in Australia, So that, I mean, literally set in Australia. So that's a tax incentive right there. Then half the cast is littered with Australian actors and actresses. So therefore, the movie got to be a lot cheaper. In my brain, I love looking around for, oh, there's Matt Frewer. Oh, there's this person, Smallville. You know, that, like,
yes, like exactly me. Yes.
so it's
I'm
like,
like, oh yes, every single Canadian actor in all of history been on at least one of those.
yeah, it's just that's my fun thing. So my thing is Bruce Greenwood. If I see him, I was like, oh, this was shot in Canada. Yeah. Not a whole lot more I want to say about them. They're dumb fun. And you got to kind of put your brain on coast. I think part of the reason why these movies do so well is because you can literally take anybody to these movies. They're not too violent. There's no world language issues. There's no sex. There's sexual chemistry. But I mean, it's like, can grandma go? Yes. Can my grandson go? Yes. Everybody in the middle. Yay. Yeah. It's the perfect movie to release Thanksgiving because it's going to last the first couple weeks of January. That's why they do. Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I know that Nicolas Cage had to do these kind of movies so he could make the other ones. But now I kind of like the older Nicolas Cage is kind of just saying, fuck this, I'm doing whatever movie interests me. If it's successful, great. Because Nicolas Cage of 15 years ago when he's making National Treasures never would have made Pig, never would have made Long Legs or Mandy or anything.
Never would have made Willy Wonderland, which is fantastic, even though.
Yeah, I am still shocked it exists because how the fuck were they not sued? Well, no. What I don't understand is how they weren't sued out of existence by Five Nights at Freddy's. It's the same plot.
Oh, of course, I know. You're right. That's an.
I will say, with Wonderland, more enjoyable than Five Nights at Freddy's. Not that Five Nights at Freddy's is bad, but I like it okay. Yeah. Well, video game movies are a real mixed bag.
The Nicolas Cage in the last.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it, but I know. Well, look, hold on. What do you do? I watch old movies of podcast, and I help. Okay. All right, everybody, that is it for this episode. I guess just check us out under Hit Rewind because I think that's just what's going to be. I can't think of another name, and I don't really have we'll keep it all under one banner, whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Yep. All right, everybody, have a good one.